I'm Joe Short of Shorts Brewing, and this is the Brewer to Brewer podcast from All About Beer. My guest today is Aaron Kleidon of Scratch Brewing. He is here for a conversation that goes beyond the brew house and into the topics that matter to brewing professionals and curious beer drinkers. First, please visit allaboutbeer.com and follow on social media All About Beer. And to support journalism in the beer space, check out allaboutbeer.com/support. We'll get into the conversation in just a moment, but first, this message.
Malteurop Malting Company is proud to introduce the new Malta 2-row, grown and malted in Mexico. At Malteurop, they're proud to be growing and producing malt in Mexico. They work hand in hand with Mexican farmers to ensure the best barley, which is then processed in their own local Mexico malt house to create this exceptional Malta 2-row. This product is a superior quality 2-row base malt and provides consistent quality designed to satisfy your desire to brew a true Mexican lager. Contact Malteurop today and visit malteuropmaltingco.com. Unlock iced tea flavor with First Tea's Instant Black Tea. Quick dissolving and easy to use, Instant Black Tea makes it convenient to create that refreshing iced tea flavor. Use Instant Black Tea with lemon, peach, or raspberry for a line of fruity iced tea beers or hard teas. Try it with botanicals like lemon myrtle, lemon balm, and lemongrass. Email info@firsttea.com, that's FIRSDTEA.com, to find out more. If you're running a brewery, owner, or operator, Beer 30 by the Fifth Ingredient is the ultimate command center. The most powerful brewery management software on the market, Beer 30 handles the entire brewing workflow, from recipe development to production. Once your beer is brewed and ready, it seamlessly manages your inventory and streamlines your brewery sales and distribution, all in the same easy-to-use platform. Beer 30 lets you get back to the beer and the people that made you fall in love with this industry in the first place. And no other brewery management software gives you the ability to truly master your business and get the insights that you need to thrive in an increasingly competitive industry. Visit thefifthingredient.com/allaboutbeer today to learn more and to receive 3 free months of Beer 30.
Okay, let's get into it. A bit or a lot about my guest today. Aaron Kleidon was born in Chester, Illinois in 1980. He grew up in a small town of 800 people, then at the age of 10, moved to the countryside surrounded by the Shawnee National Forest. He spent as much time as possible in the woods building clubhouses and in the creek fishing. He dug ginseng and golden seal in the summer as a job. His grandparents and parents both had big flower gardens and vegetable gardens. He went to university for photography at Southern Illinois University, where he studied abroad in Salzburg, Austria. He also studied beer by spending time in the Augustener Brewery's beer garden and snowboarding in the mountains surrounding Salzburg. After several years of working as a fine art photographer, specializing in black and white, silver, darkroom, and the love of snowboarding and fly fishing took him to the western slope of Colorado, where he spent 8 years working various jobs to get by. The most notable ones included working at an airport so he could travel standby and see the world, and tracking and monitoring a herd of bighorn sheep for the Division of Wildlife, basically counting sheep. It was in Colorado that he started brewing beer with a roommate using herbs and wild fruit from the mountains. The forest and landscape of Southern Illinois drew him back to his home, and the idea of starting a brewery to encompass all of his interests took shape, combining aspects of art, building things, plants, trees, wild food. He opened Scratch Brewery in 2013 with Mark Josephson. They continue to find inspiration through family histories, nature, food, and travel. He lives 2 miles from the brewery with his partner, Stephanie, and their daughter, Lucy, in a log cabin from the 1840s that they relocated and restored. His cabin fever has subsided slightly to make room for apples and a historic heritage orchard he had been planting. He enjoys camping and canoeing on the Mississippi River, walking in the woods, reading, cooking, treasure, and the occasional burrito. So, Aaron, wow, I didn't know all that about you. Welcome to
Yeah.
the podcast.
Thank you.
So it's been a while. um, for our listeners' benefit, Aaron and Marika and Tony and myself made some beer together way back in the day at your facility.
Yeah,
And that was probably one of the most fun collaborations and probably the reason why you were the brewer I wanted to choose for this adventure.
appreciate that.
So, how have you been?
Really
It's been
nice.
a hot minute since we've collaborated and made a fun beer.
Uh, yeah, I've been doing really well. I've gotten married and I have a kid since I've seen you, and that's all really great. My house that I've been building is still unfinished. Um,
Join the club.
and the brewery is going really well. No shortage of ideas and yeah, some long-term projects there are like coming to fruition and yeah, so everything is really great. I appreciate you inviting me on here because I respect you a whole lot in the brewing world, so it's an honor to be your guest.
Oh, well, likewise. And even reading this bio a bit more, we have a lot in common as far as like the size of our towns where we start breweries and going back to our hometowns. So your brewery is a really fascinating place. I really enjoyed my time there, and I love the fact that it's literally from scratch. Well, I guess that's a great segue. Would that insinuate where the name came from?
Yeah, the name was a result of kind of like doing everything ourselves, so trying to grow as much stuff as we could for the beer and even building out the space and coming up with our kind of makeshift brewing system. Um, those were all the reasons.
And you were working on, I think it was a, your facility similar to mine has just been stitched together over time. And when I was last there, you just started, you were just kind of wrapping up a new space. Was it like a tasting room expansion or like a private events room? It was really cool. It had all kinds of great colors and art on the wall.
Yeah, so that's like kind of some more uh, indoor seating, and we have a bar up there, so we can rent that out. But a friend, um, he painted murals. I was joking that it was like his Sistine Chapel. He's since moved away, but his art still adorns the ceilings and the walls. And he tried to paint the floor as well, but I told him maybe we should take it easy on that. But the tables are painted, everything's painted except for the floor. Um, and it's kind of perched up in an elevated position over the brewery. We're kind of built on the side of a hill, so as you said, everything is kind of stitched together, and I think it gives the place a lot of soul just because it looks like it's been there forever, but I don't know if it's a sign of my building craftsmanship, but it's only been there for like 15 years now, but it looks like it's been there forever.
That's awesome. Well, it's definitely got like the vibe of it was just it is handcrafted. It is also a piece of art. And it's what I admire about your style so much is as brewers, I kind of consider us craftspeople in many ways, and cooks and artisans like that. And um, I like to tinker and build myself, so it's cool to see everyone's version. It's like tasting other people's beer. But also being able to see the facility that you've crafted around your beer is almost one and the same. It's kind of this harmonious experience because you
Yeah,
literally just built it all by yourself, right?
yeah, my dad and I did most of it, and then I had a friend kind of put up he put up the shell of the building, and then we were able to finish off just about everything ourselves. So rock walls and all the landscaping and stuff near the brewery. Like that was all done by us. I think we had to hire a plumber, which was yeah, makes things a lot easier, but not so good for the wallet when you're building out a brewery. But yeah, other than that, we were able to do everything. So it seems odd that you can do your own electricity but not your own plumbing. I've
Yeah, it
always I've
does.
always wondered about that.
I'm terrified to do electricity, but
Oh, me
somewhat
too.
confident with plumbing.
Me
So,
too. Me too.
um, I was hoping that you might be able to describe Ava, Illinois a little bit and um, kind of where the brewery sits. So one of the things that we say at Shorts, because we're also in a small town, is that it's not on your way to anywhere. And I kind of got that feeling too when we made our way out there. It was um, driving out into the middle of the woods, and
Yeah.
and then you happen upon this wonderful little place where um, you find yourself out there, the Grizzly Adams of beer, working away in the brewery on various projects. Can you just kind of share a little bit about your community a little bit and kind of why you chose Ava to settle in?
Yeah. Ava, Ava kind of sits in the extreme part of southern Illinois. We're about an hour and 45 minutes southeast of St. Louis. Um, we're on the south edge of Illinois' Great Corn Desert. So shortly to the north of the brewery, within a couple miles, is kind of where one of the glaciers stopped. So Ava is kind of on the edge of the hills as they drop down to the Mississippi River bottom. And
Okay.
so because of that topography, there's lots of forest here. And we're right on the edge, kind of a couple miles from the Shawnee National Forest. So it's really a rural area. Ava itself has I think the sign says 750 now, so I think it's like it's actually growing a little bit. I'm not for sure where the people are coming from, but it is growing very slowly, I might add. And the brewery is located about 4 miles from that town. And
Do you think do you think the brewery has anything to do with the growth, the
uh,
population boom?
I don't know. I think having a business in a town that uh, people I feel like people are generally proud of saying they're from Ava, or when they're traveling around and maybe they have a brewery t-shirt on and they're on the West Coast or somewhere else and they ask them, "Oh yeah, I know where you're from. I've been there. I've went to this brewery one time." I think they really get excited about that. And I think also seeing maybe some of the people in town seeing me start a business and then I mean 12 years in, we're still here. So I think over that time there has been a lot of people move back into the area as they kind of realize maybe for them the hustle of living in a city or just not having space. Um, the countryside is kind of like drawing some of these people back now as they're a little bit older and uh, yeah, their life's priorities kind of change. So it's kind of neat being maybe a spark for some of that, but I don't know if I can claim too much. It could be the Amish population on the east side of Ava. Um, they're having quite a few kids, so that would help fluff the numbers, I believe.
Oh man.
So I can't say
Um,
Ava's a one-horse town. There's like horses everywhere.
oh yeah, that's
Our Dollar
awesome.
General has got it's got a hitching post out front, which is it's got to be one of the few that does, maybe.
That's awesome. Not a lot of
Yeah,
people can say that.
no. So But yeah, Ava itself is really quiet. I think there's on the main street there's two bars, a diner. We've got a gas station, and that's pretty much the downtown.
And one of those bars was where we went out for beers one night when we were there, right?
Yeah, that'd be the corner bar or K1, I believe. K2 is in the town next door. So
And, and I
yeah.
think that's where we came up with the name of our collaboration beer, or maybe started to shape it.
Yeah, that could have been
Because
yeah.
we were having stags, right?
We were having stags with Frank, a brewer who worked with us at the time.
Yeah, so it was like Frank the Snake and the Time Traveling Stag,
I believe that was the name of the beer, yeah.
something like that. Do you remember what kind of beer it was?
Uh I I'm trying to
It was
think.
sour something.
It was sour. I think it was dark in color.
Yeah.
And I think we
Well, we obviously time traveled because we don't
we
know.
time traveled at some point, and then we ended up with lots of I think wild ingredients from the forest.
Yeah, we foraged.
We foraged. Yeah, we went probably yeah, down the hill behind the brewery. It's kind of it's a big patch of woods there, and most of the stuff we brew with comes from down there.
Well,
My
it's a great.
parents,
Go
yeah.
ahead.
I was just gonna say my parents own I think 75 acres right to the north of the brewery, so that makes gathering stuff very convenient and close at hand.
Yeah, because we, well, a great segue, I guess, because we were foraging for stuff, and that's a big part of your brewing ethos is just kind of making stuff that grows off the land. Do you remember what we were harvesting that day?
Let's see,
I think it was in the spring, even.
it was in the spring. I bet there was some like wild oregano in there, maybe some bee balm. Um, had to be some kind of tree bark in there. That always finds its way in. If I had to guess, I would say cherry bark probably. Wild cherry bark.
I'll have to go back and look that one up.
Um, but yeah, I can't remember exactly what we were gathering that day, but I would say maybe some of the usual suspects that we're still brewing with today. Um,
Because it says growing up, you dug up ginseng and golden seal for work, and then your parents and your grandparents had big flower gardens. Is that where you learned a lot about like the kind of stuff that you could use to eat or
yeah, I think
cook
um,
with? I guess.
yeah, my grandparents were from Central Illinois, and they had a really nice garden and flowers. And when you would ask my grandmother, like, "Oh, what kind of flower is that?" Instead of her telling you exactly what the flower was, she would start in like a long-winded spiel about that flower came from your great great grandmother or great aunt, or and that was always a really interesting way to describe like plants, because they are from somewhere and they do have a sense of place. And um, so they were always the plants were always special in a way because they had always came from somewhere, or she had harvested them from her parents' farm, or so there were always these stories surrounding the plants, and I was always kind of became really interested in the plants, but also the stories around them and how they were used and how they could be used. And so that's been over time and repetition and stuff. It's all of that practice. I feel like we're still able to learn, and yeah, the plants are we're still yeah, it's still so fascinating to me what you can derive out of them.
Are you discovering new stuff all the time?
Um,
that you can use, or is your list kind of like rounded out based on your geographic, foraging?
yeah, I would say most of the time we're not. Um, I would say maybe like 10% of the beers each year, like 10% of the kind of the styles we do and stuff are probably like beers that are radically different. And a lot of it is we've kind of had some long-term projects going with growing some of these different plants that come out of the woods because we couldn't necessarily find enough to brew with, so we bring it up out of the woods and we start growing it in the garden and taking care of it. And we've been making beer with this native passion fruit to the Midwest called Maypop, and we don't get a ton of it, but we get enough to maybe make three to five barrels or something. So, I mean, initially maybe we could only make 5 gallons, but at this point we're kind of growing it up, and it's a really fun ingredient.
That's so cool. So you mentioned that you're doing about 3 to 5 barrel batches. Is that the size of your brew house, or has anything changed as far as the growth of the brewery itself?
Um,
Equipment?
Now I can't remember when you guys were down if we were brewing. Did we brew outside over a big like copper kettle at that point?
Um,
Over a
I
fire?
remember it being out there. I'm not sure if we brewed on it though.
Okay. Um, well, right now we have it's a like a 10 barrel copper kettle, but we can brew about 8 barrels at a time.
Okay.
Um, so we found a guy online from Virginia that made some apple butter kettles, and I contacted him and asked if he could make us a big kettle. So it's kind of like it looks like a giant apple butter kettle. So the sides are sloped on it, and it's kind of like a big witch's cauldron, I guess. And we kind of rigged
Appropriate.
up this jacket around it, and it's kind of almost set up like a rocket stove. There's no mass like in the insulation or the jacket around the thing, so all the BTUs from the wood go straight into it, and then the way the smoke kind of goes up, it usually it'll recombust before it goes out through the chimney, so it burns really clean and really hot. So it's really efficient for us.
So a wood-fired 10-barrel copper kettle.
You got it. Yeah.
And then what are you guys fermenting beer in right now?
So we
Is
have like that's the main system we brew about once a week on. And then in the winter when it's a little bit slower, we may do a lot of like 10 and even 10-gallon batch sizes up to 2 or 3 barrels, just depending on how many of the ingredients we were able to gather. But and then we still have all of our homebrew stuff too. And since our brewery is in the countryside and we're never really getting bombarded with people, we sometimes we can find ways to brew maybe 4 or 5, like 5 or 6 gallon batches even during a day when it's slow, so that we can kind of uh, work out some of the uses of plants, or to see if certain things work a certain way. Because I'm sure uh, the a common thread with brewing is that like you know you know what you want it to taste like, but it's the challenge is getting it there using the right grains. Or when I smell this plant, does that translate over, or does the fruit come through exactly how? So there's like infinite numbers of ways to add that stuff. So that's, I think for me, that's definitely the fun part of brewing. It's quite a challenge each time.
Yeah, um, because you could do, you could potentially brew the same thing 100 times before you get every single element right. So the smaller batches are super handy that way.
Yeah, I think the repetition of brewing too, Um, really makes, I think it really makes nice beer as places brew a lot more. I mean, it seems only natural that the beer would get better with time, and I feel like ours has. So that's a good sign, and I feel like each time we brew, we maybe tweak one little thing that kind of solves a problem, or we learn something each time we brew, so that it does keep things exciting for us, and we may figure out something that works that we hadn't tried previously.
Well, I'm going to take this opportunity to go into the short break, so we can have a message and then come right back for more of this conversation with Eric Kleidon of Scratch Brewing Company, because we just crested the beer, the actual beer topic. And so when we come back, I want to take a deep dive and get into Scratch's beer and brewing process a bit more. So we're just going to take 5.
If you're running a brewery, owner, or operator, Beer 30 by the Fifth Ingredient is the ultimate command center. The most powerful brewery management software on the market, Beer 30 handles the entire brewing workflow, from recipe development to production. Once your beer is brewed and ready, it seamlessly manages your inventory and streamlines your brewery sales and distribution, all in the same easy to use platform. Beer 30 lets you get back to the beer and the people that made you fall in love with this industry in the first place. And no other brewery management software gives you the ability to truly master your business and get the insights that you need to thrive in an increasingly competitive industry. Visit thefifthingredient.com slash allaboutbeer today to learn more and to receive 3 free months of Beer 30. Malt Europe Malting Company is proud to introduce the new Malta Two-Row, grown and malted in Mexico. At Malt Europe, they're proud to be growing and producing malt in Mexico. They work hand in hand with Mexican farmers to ensure the best barley, which is then processed in their own local Mexico malt house to create this exceptional Malta Two-Row. This product is a superior quality two-row base malt and provides consistent quality designed to satisfy your desire to brew a true Mexican lager. Contact Malt Europe today and visit malteuropemaltingco.com. Not your grandma's tea bag. First Tea's instant black tea unlocks a world of flavor possibilities for your beers and hard teas. Ditch the messy loose leaf. Instant black tea is easy to use and dissolves instantly. Every batch is perfect with their standardized instant tea. Consistent results with no more guesswork on steeping times. Email info@firsttea.com. That's FIRSDTEA.com to get instant teas and other botanicals for your next brew project.
And we're back. I'm assuming that pause was appropriate. All right, so we're back. We're here with Aaron Kleidon from Scratch Brewing, and he just started sharing a little bit about the small batch process, fine tuning that. And I think for me and probably a bunch of other listeners want to know, like, what kind of stuff have you guys been brewing? What's on tap? What are you
Um,
excited about right now?
let's see. Um, Usually in the month of April, we start releasing all of these small batches we've done over the winter. So last week we did, well, the first week of April we did mushroom beers, um, and probably my favorite beer we've ever brewed all time, because I don't think we can showcase that ingredient much more. But chanterelle mushrooms are that's that's my favorite. It's the chanterelle Bière de Garde just tastes like, I mean, it tastes like apricots. It's uh, it's really wild. When we started, we were using an ale yeast, but in the last few years, we've started using lager yeast, and we feel like using lager yeast with a lot of adjuncts is really nice, because you just leave yourself with like a really clean canvas to layer on all of the um, fruit, or in this case mushrooms. Like, it's just the mushroom is the star of the show, and so that's one that I'm always really into. Um, And we've been
And you
brewing
say
a beer. Go
you
ahead.
make that you make that one every year.
Yeah, we'll make that one once a year. And I
How
think
much do you make?
we make uh we make 8 barrels of that.
Okay. How many
And then
mushrooms go into 8 barrels of
I think the sweet spot is around like 50 to 60 pounds.
okay, and sorry with all the questions, but do those go in dry? Do they go in hot side, cold side?
So over the years we've kind of tried everything, but for the chanterelle mushroom, we find that the absolute best is we'll pick the mushrooms and then we freeze them straight away. And then because they're ripe here probably in June, so it's really hot. And we like to do a cooler fermentation, so it's just easier to wait. So we load up the freezer with these mushrooms, and then they go into the boil. We do a small addition at like a small addition at 60, and then we start ramping it up. So 30, it's like twice as much, 15 even more, and then kind of at flame out we mushroom it again. So almost like a schedule for an IPA, let's say, or
Yeah,
various hopping ratios.
very much so. And they just go straight in, you know, put them in a bag or anything, or they like
Uh,
hold, you
we
pop
put
them
them in
in?
like we put them in like a big hop bag.
Oh, okay.
Um, and those mushrooms are really easy to find. They're bright orange. They come up in the exact same spot every year, and they're just like really consistent. So we have plenty of them in the woods behind the brewery that we can use.
Now, do you bottle any of that, or is that all consumed on draft in-house?
We bottle that one, and um it'll make its way out and about. It gets bottled in 750s, and then everything at the brewery all the draft and all the bottles, everything is naturally conditioned. So we prime the kegs and then set them in a warm room for a few weeks, and then they'll go into the walk-in cooler at that point.
Before you package,
Uh, yeah,
or just the draft?
the draft it'll get packaged into kegs and it's primed and then it carbonates on its own.
Gotcha.
And then the bottles get we have like it's like a 6 head wine filler, so we fill still and then condition in the warm room as well.
Awesome. And do you distribute any of that, or is it all sold out of the tap room?
We distribute I don't maybe some goes to Chicago, and then usually if anybody in another state asks for it, we try to figure out the paperwork needed and see if it makes sense to send some. We make not a whole lot of beer. I think we made like usually we average around 250 barrels, so it's not a lot, but we're in such like a rural area. It doesn't really seem like we could be much bigger, really.
That's kind of nice, though, isn't it?
No, it's nice. Yeah, I don't mind it. It's between the brewing and then like the garden we have at the brewery and incorporating that food into um, basically we grow all the food for the restaurant at the brewery as well. So there's not a whole lot more time in the day I think to brew anymore really.
So, food is a another great topic. It's on my list. And I believe when we were there last, you were doing your own sourdough. I think we actually used yeast from your sourdough for the
Yeah,
beer.
yeah, we would have actually. I
Yeah,
can talk about that a little bit too.
yeah. So it's like a probably an oven that you made.
Correct. Yeah, we did. I did build it, and it's doing good. It hasn't fallen down. I've had to crawl in there a few times. That's the only way in the opening. So there was a really great video that I made Marika delete. I said, film me going into this oven, and I got stuck in the door. So I had to, I was a little bigger than I was 10 years ago when I built the oven. And so luckily somebody on our staff had watched a bunch of YouTube videos of caving spelunkers. So then I laid a piece of cardboard down and was able to slide in through the cardboard and fixed the oven. Um, but yeah, it's like another employee at the brewery, you know. It's always kind of on because it's a wood-fired oven. There's no switch, and at this point, like we know what the temperature of the oven is pretty well without temping it at all. So if we cook on it all through the week with the fire that's been in there through the weekend. So we eat a lot of pizza and a lot of bread there. I think that's probably worse for me than the beer.
You got your liquid bread, and then you got your bread, and then you got your pizza bread.
Exactly. Then
Sounds on point with a lot of us brewery restaurant operators out there.
oh yeah. Yeah. But yeah, we try so we have the sourdough starter we made right before the brewery opened. Actually, maybe a year or two before when we were home brewing, and we use that for a fair number of the beers. Um, we'll basically pull it off of our starter that's kept in the refrigerator. We'll pull off an amount, and then we'll feed it the night before we brew, and then it'll kind of well, it's almost like a leaven in bread. So we feed it, and then it works the best for like saisons, light colored beer, and then sour beers. So we can control sourness and basically through fermentation temp and hopping rate. If we don't add any hops, the lactobacillus is gonna sour the beer quickly. Sometimes we will pitch that yeast and not add any hops initially in the process, and then we'll dry hop it 24 hours in, so we end up with like a really nice, lightly tart beer. And we encourage the lactobacillus to do its work for a little while, and then once we hop it to like 5 IBUs, pretty much does our starter in, and then the Saccharomyces strains in there kind of finish it up, and so there's a lot of manipulation with the yeast we do. We can ferment up to 100 degrees with it if we want, but the it's going to be quite sour at that point.
Wow, I love the fact that you just kind of like, you know, kind of, as far as like taming a wild animal, you're really telling the yeast what you want it to do and when you want it to do it and how to behave. I think it's just so impressive and such a commendable part of your art over there.
And I think a lot of that does come from repetition and working with the same yeast so many times, and just the fact that Marika and I are still there, like brewing beer. Um, it I don't know. Yeah, we've brewed with that yeast hundreds of times now, and we've got a pretty good idea what it's going to do. And if for some reason things get weird and it starts to taste a little bit off, I'm pretty sure we've tasted a beer that had that same flavor in there before. So we can kind of let it do its thing, and we can kind of like help it do what it needs to do, I guess. But if we do detect an off flavor in there early on, usually we've encountered it before. There's not really anything that happens that is radically different. It seems very strange, but yeah.
So I want to learn a little bit more about the kitchen and the menu, the food operation, the tasting room slash restaurant operation hours, and then on top of that, do you use any other food out of the kitchen for any other beers?
Yeah, we're gonna be brewing a beer in the next probably 3 weeks that we're gonna use a bunch of arugula because when I was making something the other day, uh, the water was just totally green. So I was I've had the Phantom beer before that's green, but I'm curious how that works. We've never really tried to make a green beer, so we'll I think arugula might be a prime candidate for that.
Really want to hear how this turns out.
I think it'll start with a smaller batch because it may take like I mean it might look like stew, you know.
Some,
It may be like boiled spinach kind of that consistency. And then we just have to slowly filter it. But I don't know how much green it takes to green a beer.
well, maybe on the next episode, we'll learn a little bit more.
Perhaps, yeah. Um, we're starting to incorporate a lot more of the foraged things from the woods into our food as well. So that's been a goal for a long time, and slowly kind of making our own, I guess, spice cabinet, if you will, with all these different barks and wild herbs and stuff that grow in the forest. Lately, we've been making like some. The pizzas are kind of strange, but it's almost like a wild curry that uses all the ingredients that we grow, kind of. So it's kind of made as you would make an Indian curry, where you kind of uh, build up your sauce as you go. So that's been really fun, and each one gets a little bit better and better. So that's a fun thing on the food side that I'm really looking forward to continuing for a long time.
Yeah, I really want to come back out and see the place again because it sounds like there's more happening with beer, there's more happening with the restaurant. Um, that said, if I were to come out, like say in the spring or the summer, when is a good time? Like, are you open 7 days? Is
Uh,
it,
we're open Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, noon until 8 p.m.
man, you really have this thing figured out. This is amazing.
We're trying.
And how big is your team at Scratch?
Um, I think we have Mark and myself are the only full-time people there. And then we have 4 or 5 part-time people that help on bartending on weekend shifts, and they'll help with the garden or kind of whatever um, yeah, there's always stuff to be done. So they can, the part-time people can work as much as they want to work.
That's so great.
So I feel like we always have to operate slightly leaner than what would be ideal just because I feel like over the years, the winters have gotten a little bit quieter for us.
Yeah.
And I don't want to have like a really big staff and have to like let people go. I found that it's better for us and everybody if we have the right size and then we can, everybody kind of shares in the work then through the winter. And then
Yeah.
you have a lot more consistency that way. And um, so that's been a challenge over the years, but yeah.
It is so tricky. All right, so we've got a few more minutes, and I've got a couple other questions, and I'm trying to figure out which one. So you mentioned that you are now married with children. Congratulations. Welcome to the club.
Thank you.
When I was there last, you showed me a pile of logs, and you said, like, that's a basically a log cabin there. I think you might have a little bit of the like maybe the first two layers up and around. So you're taking
Near
it
the
down and
brewery.
putting it back up. But it looked like you were putting it back up. Is that the house you were talking about building?
It's right by the brewery. Is that the one you're speaking of?
Yes.
Uh, I live in a different log cabin, hence
Okay.
the cabin fever I was referencing. A different kind of cabin fever, you know.
Yeah. Just got to keep
Uh,
adding cabins.
yeah, so there's a log cabin at the brewery that is also kind of it's almost been there as long as the brewery has. I finished there's a really epic porch around it, but the inside of the cabin is not done. That's a project for this year. I mean,
So is it all
occasionally
closed in?
uh we'll we'll like chink in between the logs this year,
Okay.
and then I've got a bar and all the furniture is already sitting in the way, has been for a long time, but um
Do
we
you have
work
a
around
really
it.
awesome chink recipe?
Yeah.
That
Um
back in the day, I was studying building timber frame homes and stuff, and I learned about being able to make your own chinking compound.
yeah, so
And
it's I found that kind of equal parts clay and sand, and then you have two options. You know, you need a small fiber in there, but cattail pollen works really well, and actually fresh cow shit works the best. Um, that's like that would be the best one, but if that's not readily available, the cattail pollen works just fine.
no spent grain
No spent grain in
didn't
there.
make the cut.
Didn't make it.
So what are you hoping that will be when you're finished?
Uh,
Or I guess are you planning? What are your plans for it?
there'll be like a little bar in there, and then maybe we can open it periodically. And I really, the idea I want to convey is that like when you open the door on that cabin, it feels like you're the first person to go in there in like 150 years, you know?
Like you just happened upon this cabin after being lost in the wilderness for weeks at a time, and
Yeah, so in my mind, I have this vision of it being like cozy and maybe there's a fire, but also like it's just cool. It's out of like a different time, you know, and I know that's like probably a really hard idea to execute, but
no, I'm feeling it, man. This
since
is all
I've
part of our
yeah,
time
since
travel vibe that we've got going on.
it takes me so long to build anything, just because there's not a lot of time to dedicate consistently to uh one project at the brewery. I've had a lot of time to think about it, and I kind of work out a lot of the aesthetics as I go, so I can't make I can't make too much of a rash decision because I have ample time to think about it.
Yeah, it's one of those things that just develops over time, kind of like writing a song or a beer recipe, right? Like
Yeah.
each pieces just kind of fit together, and then
I
you
think it's one of those things that some people maybe understand, and then there are some other people that will have customers come to the brewery and they're like, looks like a work in progress, or is
is that a beer name yet?
I don't know, it could be. Um, they'll say that, or they'll say, when's it going to be done? And I say, well, I don't know. I think it's fun that it changes and it's slowly like evolving into something else, or maybe we don't need a building at a certain point and we haven't started tearing anything down yet, but we just yeah, put a lean-to on a building and add on. It just gives the space so much more character, and I think people like they like returning maybe once a year or something and seeing something new that has been worked on. I think the space is also like a living it's a living thing as well. So I don't think it could ever be done, you know.
Right. Well, I think, like businesses, they just kind of continually evolve, right? So
Yeah, like flows like a river, you know, like they just it's there and it just kind of it moves around obstacles that pop up, and no, it's really yeah, it's an organic space, I think.
All right, I think we've got maybe time for two more questions. The first one might take a little longer. I'm not sure, but I was wondering. So, in all of your years of working and developing and growing Scratch Brewing, do you have a favorite story or memorable story that's kind of crazy or out there? It's not dissimilar from getting caught in the pizza oven, but anything that is just kind of a go-to member when type deal.
Hmm. I mean, there's we brewed a beer one time. This one comes up a lot, and I find it really really funny, and I think about it a lot. But so we brewed a Belgian triple, and it was in the early days of the brewery, and it was really slow at the brewery. This couple, I just assumed that they were on a date. I think they might have been on a date until
Hold on, real quick, Aaron. I think we might have had just a break in the
okay.
first part of your story. So just go back a couple seconds, start over if you don't mind.
Yeah, not a problem. We had a couple that came to the brewery one time, and since we are in the countryside and it's like kind of out there, it's pretty dark. Sometimes you'll have customers that just appear that you've thought they were gone for hours, and you'll be like doing something, and then yeah, there was somebody sleeping in the like sleeping in one of the little side rooms at the brewery that I found when I was like cleaning up, and his the lady he was on a date with was still out front, but we joked that the beer was the triple cripple after
Oh,
that. So I think about that interaction, but a couple has been like, I don't know. We have a lot of animal stories. There's like a lot of animal encounters out there. Um, like raccoons constantly. Um, have like a picture of a raccoon and it looks like it's siphoning gas out of my truck.
well,
Um,
he does have his robber mask on.
exactly. Occasionally they've stole pizzas before. There's like squirrels everywhere. We had a turtle in the brewery not so long ago. That was pretty interesting. I walked out the back door and there was a snapping turtle that I about stepped on, like a really large one.
Wow,
Occasionally we'll have snakes in the brewery. So there's a lot of good like animal stories.
for
Um,
sure.
when
Do you
we
have any?
first when we first started the brewery, we were powering our walk-in cooler with a window air conditioner unit, and we had it was towards the back of the building. We had the garage door open, and then it got closed. And later that day, I came in, and in the like puddle of condensate water, there was a really large turtle just sitting there that time too. So, and then there's snakes. Oh, here's the best story. This table was there and they were sitting outside under the patio, and all of a sudden I was in the brewery and I just heard screaming nonstop, and I ran out there and I was like, what is going on? And a snake had fallen from the rafters and it fell right on their table, like a 6 foot black snake.
Holy cow!
And they were screaming and carrying on. The snake was up in the rafters trying to get like a bird egg, basically in this nest. And yeah, it fell right on their table. That was really funny. I basically told them that they were welcome and that they had that story then for the rest of their life, you know.
For sure.
I don't
That's
think
what
you
I'm
could.
talking about.
Yeah, so the snake, it was raining snakes one
Wow, man, we could go on for hours.
day.
Um, I'm gonna round this out with another potentially long one, but where do you see Scratch in the future? What does the future hold, or Or what is your next thing that you'll be working on or you're excited about?
I think, I think we're gonna keep working on definitely like learning. I think the more we can learn and the more that um I don't know, I think just continued repetition and getting better at our craft and really kind of holding ourselves to an even higher standard, I think is the direction I see going. I also like have an interest in apples, so maybe at some point we'll make some cider, but we're probably still years away from that. Um,
Because
but
you have an orchard started, right?
yeah, so I started planting it 10 years ago, but some of the varieties are just starting to produce now. They're all on like full-size tree stock, so it's taken a while to get them to produce, but I uh, I have a bunch of old heirloom varieties from the early 1800s in Illinois, and I think about it as almost like a collection of trees, and so I can make cuttings off those trees and graft more trees. And some of the apples aren't necessarily cider apples, but they are like the world's best pie apple, from Illinois in the 1800s, or each one has a use, and I think it's really neat. There's like some apple butter apples. So
And you could
uh,
probably make some pies in that pizza oven.
exactly. I'll probably make a pie before I really make cider in the oven.
All right, last question for you, Aaron, and then we'll cut you loose. Do you have a favorite beer to drink that Scratch makes year round? I guess I probably should have asked this earlier, but do you guys have like annual, like regular flagships, or is it always something different?
Uh, Generally we'll brew a beer once a year,
Okay,
if we really like it.
so not too many of the same thing twice.
Yeah, but we'll have like generally we'll have like a saison all through the year, and we'll have like um, yeah, I really like a lightly tart, dry hopped saison where we kind of like manipulate the yeast with that where I said we won't add any hops when we brew it, but we'll add those to the fermenter, like dry hop it basically. And those are definitely my favorite beers through the summer. We typically make those a lot with we make one with sassafras leaves, and the dry hopped sassafras leaf saison thing is definitely one of my favorites. The Chanterelle Beer de Garde's really nice. Um, there's some like dark lagers that we make with black trumpet mushrooms, which they're just like an incredible ingredient to brew with. It's kind of like chocolate and uh, mushroomy, but also this kind of like maybe it doesn't sound good in a beer, but it's kind of got this like cheese thing going on a little bit, which is really nice. Um,
Cool.
but yeah, those are probably my. I look forward to a different one kind of each. Yeah, each season, I guess we get to hang out with old friends. These different ingredients we brewed with the year before, I guess.
Man, you're making me thirsty, and my interest is piqued. So there you have it, folks. Aaron Kleidon with Scratch Brewing out of Ava, Illinois, the true Grizzly Adams and Forrester of the craft beer world. And unfortunately, we didn't get to chat with Marika, but please tell her I said hello. And
Yeah, will do.
and that concludes our conversation. So Aaron will be back on the next episode of the show as the host, having a conversation with a brewer of his choosing. That will be on the air in 2 weeks, so make sure you tune in for that. Reminder, visit allaboutbeer.com and follow on social media. To support journalism in the beer space, check out allaboutbeer.com/support. I'm Joe Short of Short's Brewing Company. Thanks for listening to the Brewer to Brewer podcast.
First Tea is a proud sponsor of the Brewer to Brewer podcast. First Tea invites you to explore the rich and versatile world of teas and botanicals, including instant black tea. Email info@firsttea.com, that's FIRSDTEA.com, to find out more. If you're running a brewery, owner, or operator, Beer 30 by the Fifth Ingredient is the ultimate command center. The most powerful brewery management software on the market, Beer 30 handles the entire brewing workflow, from recipe development to production. Once your beer is brewed and ready, it seamlessly manages your inventory and streamlines your brewery sales and distribution, all in the same easy-to-use platform. Beer 30 lets you get back to the beer and the people that made you fall in love with this industry in the first place. And no other brewery management software gives you the ability to truly master your business and get the insights that you need to thrive in an increasingly competitive industry. Visit thefifthingredient.com/allaboutbeer today to learn more and to receive 3 free months of Beer 30. Malteurop Malting Company is proud to introduce the new Malta 2-row, grown and malted in Mexico. At Malteurop, they're proud to be growing and producing malt in Mexico. They work hand in hand with Mexican farmers to ensure the best barley, which is then processed in their own local Mexico malt house to create this exceptional Malta 2-row. This product is a superior quality 2-row base malt and provides consistent quality designed to satisfy your desire to brew a true Mexican lager. Contact Malteurop today and visit malteuropmaltingco.com.